Yes, I was in Katrina in 2005. Me and my 3 grandchildren, my daughter, my husband, and my uncle. He's totally handicapped. I went and looked out the window. The water was in the backyard. I'm like, oh my God. And as we get ready to try to find a way up in the attic, I'm trying to get my children in the attic, so my husband made it in the attic. He got all the children up there. Oh Lord, the water got up so quick. So we got him up there in the attic, and then it was me trying to get up there in the attic. Water was started rising, it was rising quick. So I put the life jacket on my uncle, and I told my grandchildren, when they looked outside, the water was already up to the roof of the house. So I said, y'all got to get out here and we're going to get in the tree. So the children looked out and said, oh no, Grandma, we can't swim all that water. I said, yes, you can. You're going to hold on to the roof, and we're going to walk. It was, thank God for the tree was broke. It had a limb under the water that they can walk down on that limb underwater. But I dare anybody touch that tree, because that was the tree of God. I tell you, that was his hand. Didn't realize that we needed that hand.
In the 15 years since Hurricane Katrina, the Salvation Army continues to give hope and be a beacon of hope in the communities that it serves.
On August 29th, 2005, we had received warnings that Katrina was coming, and my father wouldn't leave, so me and my brother decided, since we can't get him to leave, we're going to stay with him and stay at his house. At that time, it was a Category 1. Didn't think it was going to be too bad, so we went to bed that night and woke up the next morning and it was up to a Category 5. We knew it was too late to leave then, so we just decided to hunker down. About 9 a.m. that morning, we looked outside and the water started coming up. Came up pretty fast. We were texting back and forth with friends who had left, wanting to know how everything was going on. We told them the water was coming up, and within an hour, it had gone from nothing to about 10 feet. Luckily, we're in my dad's house, and we were able to get upstairs and not have to go through the attic or anything. And we looked outside. You could see people's furniture floating down the street. You saw cars floating down the street. And probably around 12 o'clock, as quick as it came in, and went out in about an hour or two. So we went out to see the kind of damage it had done there. And I had a house that was 2 blocks from my dad's house, so I figured I'd walk around and see what my house, or what was left of my house. Got 2 blocks over, looked at my house, said, okay, looks pretty good, not much damage, maybe some flood water inside, and I opened the front door and my house was completely split into 2 pieces. So everything had washed out, going into the bay, and basically lost everything. You know, from that point on, we started seeing Salvation Army trucks coming around to start assisting people, and we were getting ready. I remember coming here to the Salvation Army headquarters here at the stadium, and they're doing tetanus shots for everybody, giving out food, giving out help. So at one point, when I was looking for a job, I decided to come here to the Salvation Army to use the Kroc Center because I figured I would give my money to someone to help me. So I started working here. After working out here, I started working here and volunteered for the disaster relief team. I always said after Katrina, with the amount of help that Salvation Army gave us, I would love to give that back. So I was deployed during Hurricane Michael in Florida after that hurricane, and was able to help a lot of people out. We were doing about 10,000 meals a day, and saw a lot of happy people that were happy to see the Salvation Army in town helping people out.
I had damage at my home from Katrina, come to the Salvation Army to get some assistance with some bills that we had that they were helping with. Met Wanda Lowe, looking for work, so I was hired here at the Salvation Army, been here 15 years. I worked first in social services, where we'd actually go out to all the homes and cry and talk and pray with all the victims, write down their needs, see what their main needs were, and try to help them as much as we could. I've now moved up to administrative secretary to the majors, and been here 15 years.
I started with the Salvation Army as a bookkeeper slash social services worker. 2 years, almost 2 years into that is when Katrina hit, and we had a small office down on Howard Avenue. And the day that it hit, we drove down there and we drove right past it because it was pretty much completely gone. So we just put ourselves in the parking lot. We being me and my husband, he was there with me, and we just started helping people. My first indoctrination to the Salvation Army Disaster Assist program was just running down the street and helping somebody that was trying to clean up their house and what was left of it, and they fell and a shard of glass went through their throat. So that was the first, emergency incident that I attached myself to, and after that it was just nonstop of feeding people, clothing people. We didn't have an office, so I worked out of my van for a while, and then up went the big white dome that we call home for several years, and we worked out of there, and I was the site coordinator for Biloxi. And what we did was in this big dome, we serviced people. We gave them supplies to clean up their house, or we had food, we'd give them food. We'd help them with rebuilding their house. And so many people lost, everything. So some of the things that we could give, they didn't even have a house to put it in yet, but yet we tried to do what we could for them. And even some of the people didn't even, in this part of the town, we had a lot of senior citizens, and right across the street from the dome, we had a couple ladies that didn't even make it to see their house totally rebuilt. And those are the sad things about it, the whole disaster. But the good things, there was a lot of good things every day. We seen people rebuild their lives, and their houses were better for it, We also service people in paying their rent if they still had a house. We helped them with the rent because they lost their jobs or their utilities. The hardest thing was, as being site coordinator, was right off the bat, they said, you need to find 10 caseworkers that can help you. And that was hard to do because people weren't looking for jobs right at that minute. They were trying to rebuild their lives and their homes. So bringing them into work was not at the top of their list right then. But we found some very qualified individuals to work for us and do the most good with the Salvation Army. The best thing I can say about Katrina, it made me a better person. It made me, it brought things out of me. It made me a stronger person, made me a more compassionate person. I would never want to relive those days again, but I would never want to live my life without that event, because it made all of us here on the coast who we are. It made us different people, better people.
In 2005, after Katrina had hit, it had been about 2 weeks. We were living without power. Hot meals, hot showers were hard to come by. We were in Biloxi putting a blue tarp on a friend of mine's roof, and he said, man, about this time, the Salvation Army rolls by, delivering meals to people who need them. And it sounded good. We hadn't had a hot meal in weeks. And sure enough, around 12 o'clock, the canteen came by, and we ran up to it, and they were serving spaghetti and meatballs. And didn't really know it at the time, but that it was the best meal we had in weeks, and it tasted like the best meal we had ever had in our life. It was spaghetti, meatballs, hot garlic bread, and a Gatorade. We were living on water for weeks, and that Gatorade tasted the best of anything we could have had. And now that I work for the Salvation Army and have been deployed on a number of disasters, I know what those people are going through. And so I know what it feels like to get a hot meal at a time when people are hurting the most. So I've always remembered that, and knowing when I'm out on deployment, we're really doing some good.
Just before Hurricane Katrina, the Salvation Army acquired this property, and because they did, A huge dome was erected after Katrina to help bring this community back to life. Now this Kroc Center has come and it is now a beacon of hope to the east end of Biloxi.
In 2005, when Hurricane Katrina hit the coast, my husband and I were Salvation Army officers serving in Moscow, Russia. But upon our arrival here in 2018, with our very first hurricane that came towards the coast, we realized that there is a great impact that is still felt from that Katrina hurricane. And we find that people are very interested in helping, in volunteering, but yet there's a sense of stress and a change that occurs whenever a hurricane comes our direction. And so we work very carefully with our staff and with our communities whenever anything comes our direction. We are already on it, looking and waiting and seeing how can we help, how can we make a difference. We cover 6 counties here with this area command, and with or without a hurricane, we are ready to serve. We serve through our social service offices. We have in Gulfport, soon here in Biloxi, over in Pascagoula, up in Loosedale. So every county is serviced in these lower 6 counties of Mississippi.
I remember when I was a teenager and hearing about Hurricane Katrina and the devastation that it caused for all those along the Gulf Coast. Today, as an officer in the Salvation Army, I am able to serve those very communities where the devastation occurred. Today, the Salvation Army is serving in many communities, and our biggest need is volunteers. You can serve as a volunteer in a variety of ways along the Gulf Coast, whether in our food pantries, our family stores, or with our ministry teams. But currently, we need volunteers for our disaster services. You can serve both locally and going to other disasters that occur in our areas. You can register for your disaster profile at disaster.salvationarmyusa.org. And once you complete your profile, you can contact our Area Command Office and they can get you set up and sent out to serve those who need your help.
Becoming a Salvation Army officer helped me live out that dream and that passion of helping other people. And now we're living in a time where we're presented again with a disaster, a pandemic crisis, COVID-19. I don't think anybody could have ever expected this to happen. We know about sicknesses throughout, our communities and cities, but like the whole world has been affected by this. And again, I had that feeling in my heart, what can we do? And now as a pastor, I have more influence, of course, and resources to do the things that I've was inspired to do when Katrina happened. And instantly we thought about ways that we can help our seniors during COVID-19. That they're the ones that, are most impacted, the most vulnerable ones. And they're the ones that should, be in their houses, but, many of them don't have people to take care of them or provide food for them. And so my team and I put together a plan to go out and feed seniors in the community, seniors that we didn't know at one time, but now they've become part of our families. We go out and we serve our seniors on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We fix them homemade meals. Ministry, I didn't think was like cooking was part of my ministry, but I love to cook. And so what I started to do was think of meals, home cooked meals like chicken parmesan, spaghetti. I've made them, grilled chicken, hot dogs, sandwiches. And I don't think it's necessarily about like the food that I make, but it's that somebody thought about them. And to see their faces when we come to their doors and present like this hot meal, it just changed my entire world. It made me think that, and it's so not about like me and what I'm personally doing to get like gratification or whatever, but it's about like putting a smile on someone else's face. So I'm so thankful for the opportunity that we have to feed. We fed over, I want to say, about 5,000 meals thus far, and we are going to continue on that service because I believe that COVID birthed out this senior meal delivery. They're our family and friends. Many of them are retired veterans. And so that's such a blessing too, that we get to offer that. We get to see through the lens of God, most of all, how people are coping and dealing with this. And when a senior says, God bless you and thank you for what you're doing, that's a blessing to us. And so we're blessed that we're able to do that. We also are able to take care of our congregation as well, doing live virtual services from our Bible study to our worship, because church has to continue on. People need to be continued to be uplifted, encouraged during this time. They need to know that there's hope. We wear our Salvation Army Hope shirts, and they love that with our shield on there. And they need to be reminded during this time, there is hope in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. This may have caught us by surprise, but it certainly didn't catch him by surprise. And he has a plan for each and every one of us through this pandemic. If we see through his lens, we can see the goodness that's happening amongst us. And so I'm just thankful to be a part of what he's doing and sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ and meeting human needs without discrimination. That is the Salvation Army mission. And I'm so thankful that I get to serve in this great organization.
We appreciate you, our supporting, donating public. You who care about the ministry of the Salvation Army and the people whose lives we aim to touch every day. We are in a difficult time right now for meeting face-to-face and for giving face-to-face. So we encourage you to find all those other options for donating to the Salvation Army services. You can find us online, you can donate by check, you can call in your donation, or you can still come and give your donation in person. But we encourage you to be ready to find those ways of giving digitally so that you don't have to come in contact with anyone, but you can support the people we are coming face to face with to help in times of need. You can even designate how much your donation goes to what causes, whether it's COVID, hurricane relief, or other responses that we give in times of disaster and crisis. So thank you for being willing to continue caring, giving, keeping in touch with what we're doing in your community to make a lasting difference, and for even taking part by volunteering, by calling in your questions or concerns, by referring people to us that we can help or that would like to know more about the Salvation Army's ministry. We appreciate you, we need you, and we hope that we're serving you well in these days.